This is KTVA TV, Channel 11, Anchorage.
It is on the cutting edge of integrating the best of what would be Western school-based education methods and indigenous methods for learning.
The University of Alaska Fairbanks, home of the Rural Human Services Program. Its mission to fight the social ills of rural Alaska with homegrown counselors who draw upon the wisdom of the elders.
I almost cried. I said, I'm going to get a degree at my age.
An honorary doctorate at the age of 80. Coming up on Frontiers, we'll introduce you to Elizabeth Fleagle, teaching real-life lessons from the heart.
Sponsorship for Frontiers with Rhonda McBride is provided by Kupik Corporation and Spinard Builders Supply. Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to our program as we explore an educational frontier in our state, the Rural Human Services Program, headquartered at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Its mission to attract more Alaska Natives into fields which they can help their own communities combat suicide, addictions, and other social problems. But one of the distinctive features of the RHS program is its use of elders like Elizabeth Fleagle.
Most of the students here study under the Western system of education. But in the College of Rural and Community Development, students increasingly draw upon the wisdom of Native elders.
At about 0.7 miles per hour, I'm able to still fully focus, be on phone calls, do email.
As a vice chancellor, Yvonne Peter walks between two worlds. An academic who grew up on the land and absorbed the teachings of his grandfather.
I'd say the most important thing was he demonstrated to me through how he lived his life, how to be at peace and in good relations with everybody around him.
In contrast,
I've spent an in-depth amount of time with a lot of different PhDs in many different fields. I'm absolutely clear that our elders and our culture bearers have the same level of expertise, knowledge, and insight into the world around us.
But Peter says there's something else elders bring to the classroom.
A lot of this has to do with energy, and I don't want to sound like I'm from Southern California or something with it, and literally it's just the presence.
A presence he sees in Elizabeth Fleagle.
She is incredibly loving, and you can feel that. She shares old wisdom and insight and understanding about what it is to be a human being.
Bead by bead, strand by strand, this is Elizabeth's medicine.
I do beadwork during class because it's so healing.
Elizabeth says this ancient art was once part of the grieving process. After a death in the family, women kept busy making gifts for those who helped with the burial. Elizabeth says once you start beading, you can start talking.
Kids love it so much that they really start telling me what was going on in their life at home.
Most of the students in the Rural Human Services Program are older and come from isolated communities where the problems can seem overwhelming, and Western-style counseling doesn't seem to help.
It's very hard to go through suicide of your own son. They're so devastating.
Elizabeth helps them to see that many problems have their roots in the past.
It was the hardest when they're younger children. They're so skinny, and we have to give them the TB shot.
First, tuberculosis. Then a time when the government forced families to send their children to boarding schools.
Fall time was not a good time for me. It was just sad for me.
That's when children left the village and lost their connection to their culture.
Never forget who you are. That's the main thing inside.
There's so much young people today that, at home that don't even know how to bead or sew or sing.
Elizabeth herself has struggled with alcohol, but she managed to heal, and beadwork was part of her therapy.
There are not many people that in Native culture that can remember a time when there was no alcohol.
I'm one of them. It was so glorious.
It gives us the idea that, you know, this is possible, this is what it looked like, and here's the differences in today, and how can you adapt the certain parts of older life to what we live in now.
Elizabeth Fleagle used to work as a janitor here on campus, but soon a sign that times have changed. The university recently announced it will give her an honorary doctorate.
What did you feel when you first got the letter?
Excited. I almost cried. I said, I'm going to get a degree at my age.
At 80, Elizabeth still teaches from the heart.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
She often ends her class with this hymn.
The wretch like me.
And while her voice may tremble,
Was lost,
her faith in her culture is stronger than ever.
was blind, but now I see.
Besides Elizabeth, there are about 10 elders who work within the Rural Human Services Program, all part of a pipeline for success. Many of the students in the program never thought about pursuing a college education, let alone earning a degree. Next, we'll hear from the head of RHS and from a former student about how this program is making a difference.
At Spenard Builder Supply, we know it takes a lot of ingredients to get it just right. That's why we have design centers in every store to personalize the most important rooms in your home. We'll help you select cabinets, faucets, and appliances that fit your style. So all you have to worry about is how much oregano goes in Mom's pasta sauce. Spenard Builder Supply. Building for life.
Now offering financing with no payments or interest for 12 months. Visit our design experts today at your local Spenard Builder Supply.
We have a story of 27 families that put 18 months of their lives into building a village, a home for themselves and their future. Our Inupiaq culture goes back thousands of years, carried by a strong sense of community. Our relationship with our natural surroundings is at the heart of our culture. By investing in future generations through development that is balanced with the love of our land, the Kupi Corporation brings together traditions of the past with visions of the future.
Air travel for Frontiers is provided by Pen Air. When business or recreation takes you anywhere across the state, Pen Air is there. The only family-owned airline serving Alaska. Pen Air, the spirit of Alaska.
When I got here, I heard this term, uniquely Alaskan. And I thought, what does that mean? Then I started covering these events. Iditarod, Mount Marathon, Arctic Winter Games, hockey games in 20 below. So now I know what uniquely Alaskan means.
So what would you do with an extra 2 minutes? Hit the snooze button? That sounds good. 2 more minutes in the shower? Can't blame you. Maybe send an extra photo of Mr. Tinkles to your quilting club. Well, at KTVA 11 News, we're giving you 2 more minutes of news and information in every newscast. More news. Now that's 2 minutes well spent. KTVA 11 News. Real news, real people.
They are on the front lines of fighting trauma in many communities, rural human service graduates who go back home to serve. A group of 22 students recently graduated from the program, students who are already making a difference.
This ceremony marks the end of 2 years of study. During this time, all of the students kept their jobs while traveling to Fairbanks once a month for a week to 2 week stints.
Bless all our students who has worked so hard this year.
Many of the students work for tribal organizations or nonprofits, and the kind of jobs where turnover is typically high.
So we have pretty intense courses. We've got things like grief and healing. We've got things like interpersonal violence, along with things like rural counseling.
As part of the program, each graduate had to work on their own issues so that they would be in the right frame of mind to counsel others.
Roxanne, you're known as courageous, a mentor, a survivor.
Like many here, Roxanne Frank worked in the mental health arena, but never thought about getting a degree. She was in her 50s when she began her journey.
We can make changes within our community, and it starts with us.
Roxanne is the prevention manager for the Tanana Chiefs Conference in Fairbanks.
I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
As part of her practicum for her Human Services certificate, Roxanne started a women's group for sexual assault survivors. The coursework has helped her prepare.
It has given me strength and courage to help other people.
The graduates are from all over the state. Carla Nyakbuk is from Shishmaref.
Resourceful, Wonder Woman.
Carla has 11 children.
A kind, sensitive heart soul.
Frank Beltran works for the Cook Inlet Tribal Council in Anchorage. He started a men's group in his church.
I help them with anger issues. I help them with being a father.
If this group of students is similar to past graduates, there's a good chance that they'll go on to higher education to better serve their community.
I'm this close to finishing my master's degree.
Tia Hawley graduated from the Rural Human Services program about 7 years ago. She says too many social service agencies depend on outsiders to work with Alaska communities.
It's nice that they care about helping people, but it's not the same thing as if you grow somebody from the village who gets to stay in that community.
You're looking at a group here of leaders.
Leaders who are ready and willing to do the work that isn't easy, but so important.
To continue our look at how this program is putting more rural Alaskans on the front lines of social services, we are joined by Annie Hopper, who is the statewide manager of the Rural Human Services Program, and Dora Smith with the Cook Inlet Tribal Council. She is a former graduate of the program. And Dora, maybe we should start with you. What are you doing today?
Well, I'm a career case manager at a nonprofit organization, Cook Inlet Tribal.
And how did this education get you a start on this career path?
Well, it helped me to see where our Native community, the different areas that they're, they have some troubles and obstacles to overcome, and it helped me to meet them where they're at and to help them to overcome.
So what did you think about the work that the program makes you do on yourself before you start learning about some of the big issues?
Well, when we go up to attend a class, it's usually about a week long, and we go in and they kind of bring us down to a level of where we all came from, where to the core of our being, and then they take us and they bring us back out of it with a solution orientated. And then, it just helps us to see where our participants are at, and, not to predict where they're at, but with our own endeavors. That each class is different and each learning experience is different.
So Annie, let's give people a bit of an overview of the program. Where does it operate from?
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. It's a statewide program, and it's offered it's through the University of Alaska Fairbanks under the College of Rural and Community Development, and that covers a broad spectrum of the entire state. The home-based part is in Fairbanks, where we have a cohort that starts every year. The second year they finish their schooling in Anchorage, and the other cohort is held in Kuskokwim campus in Bethel.
So what do people get out of this program?
Oh my gosh, well, it's really a year and a half of college. There's 34 college credits, And they conclude with the program with a certificate in rural human services, which articulates then into the human services program, which articulates then into the BSW program. And it's meant really for the working persons, designed around that. Also, there's a blend of Western and Alaska Native ways of knowing education. It's a very different kind of pedagogy, which makes it so successful.
Well, pedagogy is kind of an intimidating word, but has it taken a long time to develop?
It has taken a long time to develop. Our core leaders, we have an advisory board. There was a call to action with AFN in 1989, and the program now is celebrating its 25th birthday. We have 584 graduates, and 50% of those are going on to their human services degree, and 25% are going on to their BSW. So the intention is to grow your own.
Bachelor of Social Work.
Bachelor of Social Work.
So how about you, Dora? What kind of a career path are you on now as a result of this program?
Well, I started out in 2012, and then I graduated the 32 credit program in 2014, and honored to say that I graduate with my associates here in May 1st. So next is going to be my bachelor's in social work, and still in the Rural Human Services program. You know, it's just very beneficial and helpful, and you know, I love learning in the cultural way and in a cohort style.
So tell us a little bit about working with the elders, because Elizabeth Fleagle, who we talked about earlier in the program, was part of your program.
Oh yes, she was up at. They usually set up at the front of the classroom, and you know, would keep us in line and keep us in check, and you know, they share a lot of their stories, a lot of their experience of what they went through as part of their, you know, whatever the topic was, like family systems. They would share some of their family systems along with, you know, part of the Western world of the videos and whatnot that the professor would show us. And, you know, they just acted as a part of the foundation of who we are, and showed us. They showed us by telling their own story.
And I have to ask, did you do beading with Elizabeth?
Yes, I did.
Is it true? Is it healing?
It is very healing. You know, I'm a fourth generation beader myself, and I'm very creative, and you know, Elizabeth and I shared some ideas, and she always would come over and check out my work, and she reminded me of my gram. You know, my gram used to come back and make me tear everything out, and so I always showed her my best work. Yeah.
And I guess it's a reminder that there are ways that you can reach people rather than just sitting somebody in a room and saying, okay, what's going on?
Definitely, definitely.
So Annie, it sounds like this program is pretty ambitious in terms of what it wants to do in the big picture.
Well, bigger picture being there's been such turnover in the state of Alaska in behavioral health, and it really costs a lot of money to bring somebody from the outside. I was one of those people 30 years ago, came to Fort Yukon, Alaska, and I'm still here, which is good news for me, but I think that the turnover has been really hard, and it's hard on people in rural communities to have people come and go. So we have a 76% retention rate in the field. People are staying in their jobs.
That's a really interesting thing to look at is, you know, given the trauma that's involved, this isn't an easy field to get into. It's going to tear you up every time you talk with somebody.
There's a kind of a word on the street today. It's called trauma-informed education, which Rural Human Services really sets the stage for that. And it's education and transformation and healing at the same time. It's really hard to deliver services to people if you haven't walked the walk yourself.
You know, there are often people who have experienced trauma in their lives, and so they become very passionate about trying to do something about combating the rate of sexual assault or trying to help people find their way to the sobriety movement. But why is it, despite the good intentions, that sometimes these people eventually melt down sometimes and stop and discontinue their work in the field?
I think actually creating a safe place for people to heal is really important. And sometimes it's very hard to do that work on your own. And that's where elders really play a significant part. They're part of that healing process. So when students decide to share in the classroom anything that's happened to them, there's somebody there to pick them up or to help them, guide them through that process. And it's a holistic thing. It doesn't happen all at once. So it happens over a 2-year period. And it's the physician's oath is heal thyself and do no harm. And part of that is learning about yourself first and then being able to help other people.
Do you see this as a problem in the social work field, that sometimes it just becomes too overwhelming?
For myself, I do a little bit of case managing. I'm just getting into doing social work. But as far as case managing, I really do. People come in and, repeat it over year after year and asking for the same type of services. And it's a vicious cycle, and it seems like you don't really try to, it's hard not to help them to meet them where they're at when they don't really know themselves. And I think through knowing them and giving them the right resources to help them, and to get the barriers out of the way first, and then helping them to move forward,
Well, each of these students that I've met seems to have a passion, whether it's working with families, helping sexual assault survivors. So what's your passion, Dora?
My passion is the homeless. I really have a passion for that, and just I see where they're at, and I see the hurt and the pain that they've endeavored. And, although I've never been homeless, I have endured, I've overcome sobriety. I've been sober quite a few years now. And, and I did a lot of therapy to heal self, and then with the education in the school now, it's integrated everything together so I can become a teacher and become a leader and to help those who are still hurting. And I see a lot of young women coming in through the doors, and those are the people that I also like to help, is the people who I understand and relate where they've came from. Because I have came from some trying times, but through education, I think that's where we get to learn how to help ourselves and then help others.
So Annie, get us started here. If somebody is watching our show and they want to know how they can get involved in this program, can you get us started?
Oh, you bet. Well, actually, we have a new start every year in the Fairbanks campus, and all they'd have to do is go to our website, which is www.uaf.edu/RHS. They can call our 800 number. It's 1-800-478-5696, or they can contact me directly at ahopper@alaska.edu.
So how does it work for these students to go to class maybe once a month for a week or 2 weeks?
Well, a cohort model, it's an Army term, it was coined a long time ago, where people start together and they end together. And we found that people really are more successful doing that. It's very intimate. They get to know their students. They come in for 1 week. We call them intensives, 1 week a month, and over the course of 2 years. Most of them are working full-time too, though not always. We have a lot of partnerships with the state of Alaska, also with our health corporations and several nonprofits that send students to the program or be able to scholarship them. And so they do a week a month. They wake up in 2 years and go, wow, I'm done.
Well, we're just about out of time, but I wanted to ask Dora, what was the most transformational moment of this program for you?
Transformational would be, there's just so many, to name. I think that just knowing that we're not alone, not alone, and that there's so many others who, it's putting names to the issues and understanding that we're all together and we're all trying to do the same thing for our community, which is healing our communities.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much, Dora Smith and Annie Hopper, for telling us about a program that seems to be making a lot of changes, good changes.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to take you to Creamer's Field. Thanks to a mild winter, the rites of spring are ahead of schedule this year in Fairbanks.
The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium provides comprehensive health services for Alaska Native and American Indian people across our state. In addition to world-class care at the Alaska Native Medical Center, our work delivers health services for rural Alaska. From cutting-edge technology for the best care possible, to modern construction of clean water systems and health clinics, to health training and outreach that honors our culture, our vision is that Alaska Native people are the healthiest people in the world.
I just want cremation.
Cremation specialists in Alaska.
Can I have a service before cremation?
Our staff is committed to serving your needs.
I just want something basic. The simpler, the better.
Specializing in simple cremations. Whatever your reasons are for choosing cremation, call Cremation Society of Alaska 277-2777 or in the Valley 373-8627 and on the web at alaskacremation.com.
Relay for life, because there's so much to live for. Help the American Cancer Society finish the fight. Walk, join, donate now.
Everyone is welcome. Join the Anchorage Relay at 7 p.m. on Friday, May 20th at Cuddy Park.
Every day something's different, and I get really excited to report on stories in Alaska. I cover these stories. I need to be out there. I need to be experiencing all this stuff. I need to know. And Alaska is so big that you really have to get out there, because I think it's really important to meet people and cover their communities. There's just so many stories here that I could do a story for every day for the rest of my life and still have something new to tell in Alaska.
An early spring has been a bonus for bird watchers in Fairbanks who had a chance to welcome their feathered friends. Normally this time of the year, Creamer's Field is covered with snow and ice, but the combination of a mild winter and a warmer than usual spring has given the birds a place to congregate. Not only are the birds arriving early, but in greater numbers, especially the trumpeter swans.
It's amazing. It's amazing being here right now in a sleeveless shirt taking pictures of them.
All the birds are coming in about 7 to 10 days ahead of schedule, the different species.
Creamer's Field was originally part of a dairy, but is now a migratory waterfowl refuge. Congratulations to all of the young athletes around Alaska who took part in the Junior Native Youth Olympics this week.
Attaboy, there it is.
Hundreds competed at the Alaska Airlines Center, testing their skills in the Alaskan high kick, the wrist carry, and the kneel jump. Organizers say getting kids involved at a young age will hopefully set them up for a lifetime of sports and culture. The event wrapped up on Saturday. Native Youth Olympics will be inducted into the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame this July. And before we leave, we want to put out a request for photos of Alaska moms. This is one of our favorite photos of Ariel and her daughter taken at the Alaska Native Heritage Center. We want to honor moms from across the state on Mother's Day by featuring photos on our program. You can submit them through KTVA.com or by sharing them on our Frontiers Facebook page. It's time now to wrap up our weekly conversation. We want to thank you for being a part of it and for joining us as we looked at a different kind of pipeline in Alaska, a pipeline for success. We'll see you next week.